In the United States, history is being made. Kamala Harris will become the first woman to assume presidential powers after Biden transfers power to her briefly when he is under anesthesia. Biden will be under anesthesia for a colonoscopy as a part of a regular health checkup. As in the past practice, the vice president will assume power. This includes control over the U.S. armed forces and nuclear weapons arsenal. The White House described the appointment as a routine annual physical. This is the president's first checkup since taking office in January. Now, this is not the first time this is happening. The 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution allows the president to voluntarily transfer his authority to the vice president. Until now, it has been invoked on 3 occasions by 2 presidents. In 1985, George H.W. Bush was the acting president, while Ronald Reagan underwent colon cancer surgery under anesthesia. In 2002 and 2007, Dick Cheney became the acting president when George Bush underwent colonoscopies under sedation. Now, there have been concerns about the president's health in the past. Biden is the oldest U.S. president in office at the age of 79. But the health check comes at a crucial moment in his presidency. In a letter released by his election campaign in December of 2019, Biden's physician described him, and I quote, as a healthy, vigorous 77-year-old male who is fit to successfully execute the duties of the presidency, unquote. Now, according to the letter, Biden does not smoke or drink. He was vaccinated early on against COVID-19 and also received his booster shot in September of this year. Now, after returning from hospital, Biden is due to participate in the annual tradition of issuing a presidential pardon to a turkey. He will then fly to his family home in Delaware for the weekend.
Earlier today, I spoke with President.
Now, joining us live on this broadcast for more on this story is WION correspondent Susan Tehrani from New York. Thanks for being with us, Susan. Now, firstly, I want to focus on the criticism that has been leveled by certain people against Kamala Harris during her first year as vice president. She has defended herself. What are the latest details you have for us?
Yeah, so she went on Good Morning America as sort of a national platform to try to defend herself. However, that, defense really didn't go very well. She wasn't able to do that. And part of the reason for that is because Kamala Harris doesn't have much to show for. I mean, on the one hand, you can argue that Joe Biden and his team isn't really taking advantage of her position. But on the other hand, you can argue that, Kamala Harris really doesn't have the experience and the expertise to be taken advantage of. And she's, quote unquote, really not useful in the position that she's in. And it possibly goes back to the argument of identity politics and whether or not she was just chosen because she was a woman of color. And during the time that now President Biden, then candidate Biden, needed to pick a vice president, she was possibly the best choice, considering, her identity being a woman of color. And, perhaps that's what she had going for her. I mean, that's really the main argument, something that people don't want to talk about. Other than that, she was one of the first people who really stepped out of the primaries to become president. And a reason for that was, again, because she didn't have really the expertise and know-how, not only to be commander-in-chief, but she wasn't really popular among the American people either. So now we're seeing sort of that collapse in her position as vice president. And I think as the president himself becomes very unpopular, you see the domino effect in the vice president as well. If Biden was popular and then this would happen to Kamala Harris, then you would say, well, you have an unpopular vice president. But because Biden is so unpopular himself, you have a 10-point drop in the vice president as well. You really see the spotlight on Kamala Harris not being able to pick up the pieces and bring this administration up and sort of be a backbone to Joe Biden, because she really has nothing to offer. She really has nothing to show for during the last 10 months of what she's been responsible to do, whether it's been on the border or it's been on international issues and elsewhere.
Right, Susan. Now, this, of course, comes at a critical time. just before Kamala Harris will become the first woman to assume presidential powers as President Joe Biden goes for his routine annual physical exam as the head of state. What does this mean?
It's routine. You know, she's at the right position at the right time. You know, she is, again, you know, if we want to play on the identity politics, yes, she's a woman. She's going to be assuming presidential powers for a few hours. But the reason there is so much focus on this again, and there is so much talk of it, notably on social media, is because, again, she's so unpopular at 20% approval rating that it's kind of bizarre at this point of time that she is assuming presidential power at a time when the oldest president in American history is undergoing this procedure, and some are just, you know, sort of holding their breath to see what happens. The procedure is routine, as you mentioned. Other presidents have done this. There was rumor that President Trump actually underwent a similar procedure as well, giving the power to Mike Pence. However, he didn't want to make it public. That's according to a book by his ex-press secretary, whether that's true or not. But yeah, I mean, that's why there is so much talk and coverage around this issue, is because of the news that's been surrounding Kamala Harris and the debacle that's been going on in the White House, and also because we're waiting to see, you know, whether or not this colonoscopy, not only the procedure, but what else is going to come out of this physical. Remember, a lot of Republicans are calling for a cognitive test on the part of the president as well. They want to see sort of a full physical coming out of Walter Reed after this visit by the U.S. president, and we'll have to see if we'll get that or not. And then perhaps this story of Kamala Harris, first woman assuming presidential power for a short period of time, would have more significance or not moving forward.
Right. Susan, thanks very much for bringing us all the latest coming out of the US.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.